The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio.
Coming up on the program today, we're going to discuss volunteer plants in your garden, as well as edible perennials that you might want to include in next year's garden. Our guest is author Susan Poizner, and we'll answer your garden questions. The hour is full, so join us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
And welcome to another edition of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Happy you've taken time out of your day to allow us to be part of it. I am your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. Happy you've tuned in on one of the 20 AM and FM frequencies broadcasting our program here in 2023 through a radio app, through our parent website, which is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Podcast replay, in-studio video replay. Thank you so much for allowing us to take part of your day to entertain and educate you. If you want to be part of the program, you can certainly do that by sending us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or give us a call, toll free, coast to coast at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. Volunteers in the garden, Holly.
Volunteer plants.
Yeah,
not like volunteer people.
No volunteer people in the garden, but volunteer plants in the garden. And what the people often are not familiar in what is occurring is, in the spring, we've had a long winter in most portions of the country, and we go in and we either till the garden or we just scrape it clean, and we start with a brand new clean slate. But at that particular time, there is some vegetation that is growing. And if you're not keen on what certain plant identifications are, you will destroy some of these plants in which are coming back that you don't have to plant. It may not be in the place you want them to come up, but they're coming up, and you can maneuver them into certain locations or allow them to grow naturally where they're at.
Yeah, we've done this with tomatoes and
lettuce and
probably other things.
Not root crops. Don't do this with like radishes.
You don't want to do with radishes, but that it can happen. You can get the volunteers, and since most radishes are like 30 days,
it's a gift.
It is a gift. Since most radishes grow within 30 days, it's probably not a huge deal if they're somewhere.
Work around it.
Yeah, you can work around it. I like the fact that there are sunflowers that do this, and then
if you have like a bird feeder and you're feeding sunflower or a mixture of it, typically around that bird feeder, that's where all these things are going to pop up the next year.
Right. Yep. And you can even, if you feed chickens too, you might have that. If they don't, chickens are usually pretty good at finding their seed. But yeah, like you said, a bird feeder.
You would have milo and corn and sunflower and all that all that stuff that comes in. Now with the sunflower,
is milo a grain?
Milo is a grain. Yeah, yeah. It is harvested like any other type of farm agricultural grain. Yes.
Okay.
With the sunflowers, let's talk on that, because people will say, well, I've got sunflowers growing. I didn't plant them, and they have so many more heads, so many more flowers than the ones I plant normally.
I don't. So basically, when this happens, it's just because it becomes stronger.
A natural mutation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mutation. And we had this happen, I think, 2 summers ago.
Yes.
And it was like 10 feet tall or something.
Well, we did a reel on it, or in a Facebook, on a YouTube video. How tall was my sunflower? I think it was 16 foot, and it had 8 or 10 or 12 flowers on it, and the stalk was over 3 inches across, not around, across. It was like a tree. And it was solid, which I probably should have known this, because with the excessive winds, you just can't have sunflowers being hollowed stem and stand up.
Right.
It was a solid stem that I used an actual wood saw, hand saw, to cut it down.
And there was some storms in the area.
And trees were toppling.
Yeah, trees were toppling over. And we had the sunflower that just was like, whatever. Yeah.
Tomatoes, yes. You can get, if you're not picking your tomatoes, or they've fallen or they've rotten and you just chucked them in other portions of the garden, you're going to have them come up. Now, You don't know if it is a Wisconsin 55 or a Abraham Lincoln or a mortgage lifter, whatever comes up. Now, free plants is free plants, and they're going to do just fine. I experimented with this particular practice this past year, a spring, where we just planted seed in one portion of the bed, and the other ones were transplants, and they are both the same size now and producing the same amount of plants or same amount of fruit. So in future now, we are not going to start tomatoes indoors. We are simply going to go in the garden, designated area. We're going to put weed fabric down because we're tired of doing that game with the weeds, and just puncture the holes and plant the seed and call it good.
Are you a seed believer now?
Not for tomatoes. Now, peppers and eggplants and everything. I think.
Right. I'm talking about tomatoes, though.
Right. Tomatoes, this seems to be the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you.
Okay.
Did I prove you right?
You proved me right.
I'm kind of glad we're not going to plant tomatoes inside just because.
Space.
I mean, yeah, it's space. And I'm really invested in my goth garden. And so I might have to start some seeds inside.
We talked about that last week on the program.
Yeah.
If you didn't hear that, you can certainly send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. We'll send you the podcast link to that. You can also find it under Season 7 tab at our website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Pumpkins. We just harvested a pumpkin the size of a volleyball. It's probably about 2.5 pounds, maybe 3 on the high end. But it was, I don't know, apparently one of the beds had pumpkins in it. We haven't planted pumpkins in years. We've never planted pumpkins at all in our raised beds.
No.
So we don't know where this came from.
Yeah,
it is just
weird.
a traditional orange jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. That's all.
We never did?
No. There was pumpkins there about 10 years ago.
Maybe it came from like the compost.
Well, possibly. That would possibly be the only explanation because we had all kinds of compost. Yeah, and it wasn't broken. But that's you need to know what these plant identifications are, the leaf structure, the makeup of it. Lettuce is a very common thing that if you've let your lettuce plants go to seed, your leaf lettuce, it's going to shatter and scatter hundreds and thousands of seeds throughout your garden, and you can have free lettuce that you don't have to plant. Now, you may have to work around certain areas, and if you don't get it to it before your neighborhood rabbits or the country rabbits get to it, then you're not going to have that. But you need to be aware of what these plants look like. Not necessarily on two realms. One on it's springtime, walk into the garden, want to see what's growing. But on a secondary level, you've planted these things and you need to know what they look like so you can weed around them and you're not pulling up the plant in which you're growing.
Right. It's important to know that. And also just make sure that, because I feel like there's weeds that kind of look like tomatoes because they have like that darty leaves. But I guess if you transplant a weed, eventually it's just not going to do anything and you'll know.
Well, it'll be 7 foot tall and your tomato plant will be 3 inches. So it'll be
right. So
very
I guess
quickly.
There's that too. It's good to know. And also, I can't imagine that there's something that you would get a volunteer on that would be bad, but just...
You need to identify.
Identify as best as possible. But again, it's something where if eventually it will either create what you thought it should create or grow whatever you thought it should grow, or it won't. So
now with the seeds that have dropped, let's talk about tomatoes because that is everybody grows tomatoes. There may be a small percentage chance that it is crossed with another tomato. Very unlikely, but there could be, you may have a cross-pollination of a tomato, and that's how new varieties are formed. It's not going to be a poisoned item. It may not have the taste or the different levels of flavor in which the previous one had, but if you're like, I've never seen this kind of tomato, you might have a unique one. It may have the very different characteristics. Sunflowers, you're not gonna really have to worry about that. Lettuce, if you have multiple different varieties of lettuce, you're not gonna have an issue with that. Pumpkins, this is where you're gonna get the problem at. Pumpkins, squash family, you can, and we have had spaghetti squash that's crossed with a zucchini, and it's not that pleasant of a harvest item to consume.
It was kind of
like eating a green pumpkin.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it was very stringy, very dense, and was not pleasant.
Like earthy in a bad way.
Yeah,
almost,
earthy in a bad way. Now
What's earthy in a good way? Beets.
Beets, turnips, rutabagas.
Oh yeah.
Those type of items. Now with the pumpkins and the squash and everything, it's if you're growing it this year and it looks fine, that's fine. But if there's a chance of pollination cross, then you don't want to save those seeds. Use those pumpkin seeds for pumpkin seed flour or roasted pumpkin seeds or a variety of other types of dishes which you can save. Use them and save them. Some people will like bake them and then they'll dry them and vacuum seal them, and they'll eat pumpkin seeds all year long. I mean, someone's getting pumpkin seeds. You can get them in the store year round, so why can't you do it at home?
Yeah, that's a good point. You can do that.
And you also can have volunteers when it comes to flowers, too. These flowers.
Oh, yeah. They reseed themselves.
Yeah.
Nature does that. You know, sometimes if it's something like a marigold where they have the real floaty seeds. I mean, if you think about dandelions, those reseed themselves.
Milkweed will reseed itself very heavily.
There's all sorts of things that you might not even realize. Sunflowers obviously can reseed themselves. So anything, I'm sure, in that family, the sunflower.
Oh, and weeds. Weeds can reseed themselves.
Yeah.
Much more rapidly than...
I mean, like, let's think about Creeping Charlie.
Yeah, well, that's out of control in a lot of places. And without chemical application, you're really not going to get it back in check. You just can kind of control it. Weeds, on the other hand, there are many of you who potentially are in the same category as Holly and I. We've weeded hard, and it didn't look like we did anything. But the tomatoes, the peppers, the eggplants, the green beans are doing phenomenal. And we just kind of let it go. And next year we'll get some weed fabric from Jung Seeds, jungseed.com, and cover the beds and take more of a controlled position on the weeds so we don't have to spend hours weeding like we did this year and come back 3 weeks later and doesn't look like we did anything.
It does feel very endless and frustrating and a lot of things.
But we're in raised beds. We've done it when it was in the physical ground, and it was even worse because I would spend literally 40 hours, days, 40 hours total. Let's pick, a week's worth of time in the garden deep weeding a 3-foot by 10-foot section, and then there would be a 2-foot walk path, and then another section.
I mean, you used to have me help you, and I would be like, I would get so mad.
And we would weed to where it was pristine, and in 3 weeks, you couldn't tell we did anything. Now, we were probably disturbing some weed seeds, but you would think that there would be something there of a longer-term fake feel-good moment than that. So
I don't understand how it's so weedy.
Well, I do understand that Walton's has a wonderful discount as you listeners have exercised it, and that's why they're coming back next year for season 8 of the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. And Holly, what is that?
Well, yeah, so that's code GROW50 to save 10% off orders $50 or more. And Walton's, if you're not familiar with Walton's, they have everything that you need but the meat. So they have equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standards. Do you want to make snack sticks that people will actually like? Walton's created meatgistics.com, an informational site to help you make the best finished product. Walton's even has a full line of their meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers, and more to help you go from animal to edible. So that's waltonsinc.com. Use code GROW50, GROW50 to save 10% off your orders or $50 or more.
When we come back, edible perennials that you may want to include in your next year's vegetable garden. You're tuned into the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Grip 6 produces American-made products with sleek designs and quality materials. Based and manufactured in Utah, they have high-quality and durable products that last a lifetime. They're built beyond tough. Their wool socks come from Rocky Mountain-sourced materials, are soft and comfortable, keep your feet warm and dry, and come with a lifetime guarantee. Even for the most sensitive toes, these socks are made for everyone. High-quality wool socks make a huge difference for happy feet. They fit in with all the many things you do from around the house to the outdoors and beyond. They are comfortable and long-lasting. These socks are great for gardening because they keep your feet so comfortable no matter the conditions outside. It's hard to overstate how amazing these feel to have warm, dry feet as you work in your garden. Designed and manufactured in-house for the best results and quality every time. When you purchase from Grip 6, you're supporting long life cycle products and American-made manufacturing. Check out their belts, wallets, and socks at grip6.com. Use coupon code RADIO15 to save 15% off your order at grip6.com. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated gardening company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use coupon code 10TG23 to receive 10% off your order at jungseeds.com. Again, that coupon code is 10TG23. Wisconsin Greenhouse Company has custom-made greenhouses to suit your needs. Grow year-round. Strongest greenhouses that will last a lifetime. From agricultural to lounging to entertaining. For more information, go to wisconsingreenhousecompany.com.
Dig planting holes from a comfortable standing position. Step, twist, pull, and plant. Visit ProPlugger.com.
Happy Leaf LED grow lights are USA made in small batches for outstanding performance and long-run cost-effectiveness. 5-year warranty and VIP customer service. Grow happy at happyleafled.com. Use coupon code JOEYHOLLY to get 10% off any order over $90 at happyleafled.com.
When a family of fruit flies accompanies the fresh fruits and vegetables from your garden, you need rescue fruit fly traps. Rescue fruit fly traps use a food-grade lure that fruit flies can't resist, and thanks to their no-tip design, you won't have to worry about spills on your kitchen counters. Get rid of fruit flies fast with Rescue fruit fly traps. Made in the USA by the makers of the popular Rescue fly and yellow jacket traps. Learn more at rescue.com. That's RESCUE.com.
The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Dripworks, Rise Gardens, Grip 6, Bloomin' Easy, Fleet Farm, Waltons Incorporated, Blue Ribbon Organics, Tree Diaper. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Farmers Defense, Holly.
Farm and garden in the ultimate comfort. Farmer's Defense has lightweight and durable sleeves made to protect you against the elements while farming. Farmer sleeves offer unparalleled protection of arms and skin for any farmer, gardener, or outdoor worker. Say goodbye to irritated skin and sunburns in the garden. Their leaves offer cooling comfort and protection against the elements outdoors. An alternative to thick clothing, Farmer's Defense is made of wicking material with UBF protection factor 50+ to protect you from allergens and scratches. To find all of their great products and more, visit farmersdefense.com.
Edible perennials in your garden, Holly. We've talked about this on the program several times over the many years, and it's something that needs to be, at the end of the season, things have done good, things haven't done good. What can we add to our garden that will produce more with less work? And there's several different items here, plants that you may want to consider for your garden addition next year.
So the first one is rhubarb. I don't really like rhubarb, but we should talk about it because it is a perennial and it lasts for I think 25 some years. 15
plus years, and you can divide it or leave it as is. And it's a plant that the leaves are not edible on it. However, the stems are.
Yeah, they you don't eat the leaves, you eat the stems, and it's I think it's like sour or tangy or something, and then so people mix it with something sweet, strawberries to make it.
I'm sure somebody eats the stems and likes that bitterness, sour taste.
Well, I've heard of people dipping it in sugar and then eating it, like a celery stalk kind of.
Okay.
And and it lasts a long time.
You're going to need an area. You're going to need something about 6 foot in diameter. Now we grow on a small variety, on a small scale, I should say, and we grow it in containers, which can be done. It can be done. It doesn't get to the magnitude of in the ground, and in the container, you're going to have to continue to feed it, water it, and divide it because of the limitations that container holds for you, that plant.
So some people do feel that rhubarb is aggressive and what's the other word I'm looking for? Invasive in a way. So just beware that it can grow and divide itself, or whatever you want to call it, where it does kind of take over a little bit. So if you do grow it, make sure you put it in an area that you're not trying to grow other things because it might
or you need something to take up some space, like in a back corner that does get adequate amount of sun, but you're not back there all the time. You don't want to, you don't want to mow the grass back there. You can put some rhubarb back there, type of landscaping, edible landscaping, so to speak.
Right. So yeah, that's rhubarb. So raspberries or blackberries, we have golden
raspberries.
Golden raspberries, we've got what, 3? No.
Well, we started with 1, and the next year we bought 4, and 2, and one of those died. And now, because of how they spread with runners, we've probably got 25 to 40 different plants that are coming up in that place. And next year it'll probably be 25% more in that area, because they continue to multiply by shooting runners underneath. And we've actually physically removed one of the raised beds that we had nearby, because that raised bed is basically has become a raspberry bed, and it's overtaking the area, which is a good problem to have. Now, typically you would want to have space between each plant in order for you to get the harvest that you need, so you're not, stomping on plants and everything. But this is just how nature is in the wild, and we are working our way through and harvesting as need be. So probably in another 2 years, we'll have enough during one harvest to have a pie of golden raspberries. You can dig these up and transplant them, yes. We just let them go naturally and let them kind of take over as need be. And you can get thornless blackberries as well.
Yeah.
This is in, it gets morning sun, and then the shed blocks a lot of the afternoon sun. So they're not as large as raspberries or blackberry plants that I have seen. I've seen some of them that are 5 or 6 foot tall and 3 foot across. These have no physical structure that they're growing up on. And we don't prune them back. Like some people say you're supposed to prune them. We've never pruned them back. We just let them go, and they do their thing.
With that being said, we are the gardeners who don't always prune a ton of stuff.
What's pruning?
Yeah, pruning just means like you're basically...
It's a control.
It's a control. It's kind of like when people shape bushes and hedges and things like that, but it's more to control the plant, essentially. And it's not that we don't care. It's just that we let things kind of do their own natural growth thing. Mm-hmm. And same thing with tomatoes and
the suckers.
That's a whole other topic. But yeah, so raspberries, blackberries. Now you can grow blueberries, but you do need very acidic soil, and not just like dump a cup of coffee in your soil type of thing. You do need to add
acidic soil. They have compost to that, or they have potting mixes that are adapted to that particular pH level. But if you're going to have to bring in material in order to grow a specific plant, such as blueberries, you may want to exercise the energy and the finances in order to grow something that you don't have to improve or change a total molecular level of soil pH in order to get that particular plant to grow. Work on blackberries or raspberries instead of trying to change a certain bed so you can grow blueberries. That's, take advantage of what you can grow instead of trying to change your environment to grow something that is not applicable to grow.
Yeah, definitely. You want to keep these things in mind. Just like in northern climates, you're not trying to grow bananas, as opposed to in southern climates, maybe you're not trying to grow I don't know.
Garlic is is more of a difficult thing to grow down south.
Yeah,
it can be done, but it's more of a challenge. Sunchokes, or AKA Jerusalem artichokes, we have good years and we have bad years. We're currently on a bad year, meaning that on a good year they'll get 12 to 18 foot tall. They're related to the sunflower, and they'll have 5 to 8 pounds of tubers per plant. On a bad year, they're about 3, maybe 4 foot tall, and maybe 1/4 pound per plant. So we basically will harvest very minimal ones this year, and then let the tubers redevelop themselves and to grow more. And people say that they are very aggressive in some environments, we have not found that to be the case. We have them in a 15 by 15 foot square, native soil, no barrier around it. They intrude here and there, and we just dig them up. But it's not like they're not like creeping Charlie or mint, where you turn around and they've moved 3 foot in the time you've in 15 minutes type of thing. You can grow Jerusalem artichokes in a container. We have done that and buried the container at ground level in the garden, so it would kind of fit in just to do it, and it worked well. So you want to voice your, we're not doctors and we don't pretend to play any, but there is some things you need to know about sunchokes before you start consuming large quantities of them.
Yeah, so sunchokes, aka Jerusalem artichokes, have this high amount of enzyme in them called inulin, not insulin, inulin, and it's good for you, but it does give many people GI, gastrointestinal issues such as passing gas aggressively. And so I know for me, because I have something called IBS, I do have a little bit more of a sensitive digestive system, so it does make me more gassy as opposed to maybe some other people. But you can build up a tolerance for it, is what I understand. Otherwise, if you do something where you put it in a soup or like a stew, or you just have a little bit at a time, you're okay. It's just like, you're like, oh, this is delicious, these are really good. And then you eat, a bunch of sunchokes, and then you're having regrets later.
Some, not all.
Not all.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, some people don't have that, like you talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just good to know how it could affect you. Now, sunchokes are delicious, and they are kind of like a survival vegetable because of how they do come back, and they do grow very, very well. And
unless you knew what you're looking at, you wouldn't know what they were.
And they kind of grow in like garbage soil. So there's that too. Like, they don't really care. They're like, hey, this is okay. Like,
right, you got to put the water to it, which we don't have. We've never put water to ours, which has the limitations of why some years are really good and other years aren't good for us. We have the white variety. There is a burgundy variety that's, I believe, is a little more rare to grow, and these tubers can be marble size up to essentially the size of a tennis ball, very gnarly looking. And however you cook these or consume them, do your best to peel them. That will get most a good percentage of the earthiness off of them, because if you try to eat them with the just clean skin, it's very, very unpleasant, at least for our taste buds. You want to try to peel them as much as possible to get that off. Asparagus is another plant that takes will last 20 to 30 to 50 years, so it may outlive you in your garden, but to get it established, it takes about a good 4 years to really get things going. And if you have the space, there are charts to know how much you should grow for X amount of size family, but put more in than you think you need. We should have doubled what we planted 4 years ago, because we're not getting the quantity that we would like. But asparagus, there is a purple variety. There is a green variety. The white variety that you see in the store or you see online, what is occurring there is it's growing, but as it grows, they mound the soil over and prevent the sun from getting it, and they're actually bleaching it, not like in a chemical sense, but in a agricultural sense of removing or preventing light from getting to it in order to do the photosynthesis that it needs to do. I don't know what the advantage of that is. I'm sure there's some health.
I think it just looks cool, maybe. I don't know.
Well, looks cool and has a nice price tag, I assume, if something look cool.
Right, but the more, like, the greener vegetables are, the darker anything is.
Eat your vegetables a color.
Yeah. The more nutrient dense they typically are. Like, if you look at something like a dark green kale versus an iceberg lettuce, and you see that contrast, that kale is naturally more nutrient dense because of how just how it is, and then iceberg is not. Iceberg
has basically 0% value.
It gives you fiber.
I mean, the nutrient value is like 0.19%. It's a terrible low number.
Right. So just keep these things in mind that I guess I could look up to see if white asparagus has any nutrient difference than regular asparagus, but sometimes things are a gimmick, like I was at the store the other day and they were selling greenish pumpkins and calling them fairy tale pumpkins.
I don't think that's true.
I was like, what? They were just green pumpkins, but whatever. I don't know. So I didn't look at the price tag. I just kind of shook my head and kept going. So yeah, asparagus is something that you should grow.
Well, just because fall has occurred now, nights are getting colder, days are getting shorter, kids are in school. Don't forget about your lawn. There's some things in which you need to do now to prepare it so you don't have problems next spring.
Just because fall is here, we don't want to forget about our yards and Japanese beetles either. They may be gone, but they're not far. Not only did they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they laid eggs on your turf so you can start again next year. Take a stand with Phylum's Grub Gone. Grub Gone is a non-chemical BT granule that specifically targets scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granule with a spreader, irrigate it into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
The best part about Grub Gone, it is non-chemical choice that effectively controls grubs and is non-toxic to bees and other pollinators. In fact, Grub Gone has no label restrictions to be used around flowers. So you can find more out about Grub Gone at grubgone.com or phyllumbioproducts.com. When we come back, author Susan Poizner, how you do that?
Susan Poizner.
Poizner, author, will be with us right after this. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Need a new mattress? Choose Furlow over the other leading brands and save big, really big. Because hey, nobody ever slept better for paying thousands more for basically the same mattress. Plus, with Furlow mattress, you also get our exclusive lifetime comfort guarantee. Good for as long as you own your mattress. Comfort to comfort, dollars to dollars. Compare Furlow to the others and it's obvious. You get more bed for your buck. Wake up. Sleep better. Furlow.
Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardeners, farms, landscaping, and more. To find our products nearest you, visit blueribbonorganics.com.
Goodbye biting bugs and plant invaders. No More Bugs by Naturally Green Products is your answer. A product pioneered by the USDA in 14 years in business, No More Bugs has been a favorite by consumers across the country. More than a repellent, it is safe for you, your plants, pets, and home. Visit nomorebugs.net. Free shipping on orders over $50. Use code FREESHIP4ME.
Rootmaker starts your plants off right and keeps them going through harvest. From their seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots to their large variety of grow bags, 1 to 60 gallons. Their products will provide you the harvest you've never seen before. Visit rootmaker.com and use coupon code RADIO23 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
Worried about watering too much or too little? Tree Diaper technology is the best way to stabilize your soil moisture in your garden, trees, or houseplants. Use coupon code GARDEN15 to save 15% off at treediaper.com. The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, Aqua-Mart, Soil Savvy, Wind River Chimes, Wisconsin Greenhouse Company, Pro Plugger, Deer Defeat, Dripping Springs Oyas, Phylum Bioproducts. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Moments away, Susan Poizner will be with us. But first, Rise Gardens.
Rise Gardens is a revolutionary hydroponic gardening system for your home. Instead of food traveling hundreds or even over 1,000 miles before it hits your plate, no green thumb required knowledge. Gardening made easy with the Rise Gardens app by step-by-step guidance from seed to harvest, a complete garden on a shelf, and comes with everything you need to grow healthy and the freshest food for you and your loved ones. Fully customize your garden to your needs and preferences. For more information and get your Rise Garden, visit risegardens.com.
Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Susan Poizner is a journalist, filmmaker, urban orchardist, and she has created orchardpeople.com. And for the past couple of weeks, her book, Grow Fruit Trees Fast, has been on the Amazon #1 bestseller in the gardening and horticultural fruit section. Welcome to the program, Susan.
Hi, so nice to be here. Hi, guys.
Well, we're welcome. You're welcome. Happy to have you. Congratulations. Get a book on #1 bestseller. That's not an easy task to accomplish, no matter what category you're in.
Well, I'm very excited about it. That's all I can say.
I'm sure, yeah. What inspired you to create OrchardPeople.com?
Oh, my gosh. Well, I don't know. Fruit trees can be challenging. Let me put it this way. I don't know if you guys have had these challenges before, but when I decided to plant fruit trees, I was, a gardener. I love doing organic gardening in my backyard. I actually, for a while, had a job working for the city of Toronto as a gardener. So I wasn't, I was aware of organic gardening, and I thought, hey, I have a great idea. Let's plant some fruit trees in my local park. And I did that, and I knew I needed to mulch the trees. I mean, trees need mulching, but that's kind of it. I knew we had to water the trees, but little did I know, fruit trees they can be a little high maintenance if you don't know what you're doing. And this was a public park, and I didn't want this project to be a total disaster. Me and the other volunteers would not look good if it didn't work out. Anyways, long story short, our trees had many challenges, and it took me a year or two before I realized, oh my gosh, I better do something. And I looked for people to teach me. I looked for online courses. The one online course that I found was in the UK and cost over $1,000. And I'm like a community orchardist here. I don't want to pay $1,000 just to learn. The books that I found were not easy for me because they were from different climates. And a lot of them were talking about the wonderful different varieties of fruits that I can plant and stuff that just didn't resonate with me. So I created OrchardPeople.com and my online courses and my podcast and all the articles because that's what I needed when I started growing fruit trees. So now that I have done this for 14 years, over the years, I've learned more and more. And my goal is to be for other people what I needed, to be that mentor and guide that will help other people be successful with their fruit trees and with their orchards.
Well, I don't know if you have it in your city, but we have professional landscapers that will mound that mulch up half the side of the trunk of the tree, volcanic mulch it, and think there's nothing wrong with it. And I don't understand how they are not taught that is wrong.
Well, you're talking to somebody who has literally knocked on doors to say, excuse me, you're not supposed to do that to your tree. And it's bad with any landscape tree, but, with fruit trees, what happens is you can get boring insects crawling into that mulch and then making holes in your trees, crawling up your trees. I mean, fruit trees, native trees have challenges too, but fruit trees have more challenges. Native trees do lots of great stuff. They shade the neighborhood. They beautify the community. They blossom. They're gorgeous. They clean our air. They stabilize our soil. And fruit trees do all of the above, but they also feed us. They need more love and attention. They're pretty much always grafted, so they're made up of two different trees. They're high maintenance. And if a fruit tree is not healthy, it's a mess. The fruit is not delicious. It will be wormy. It will be unappealing. And to make things worse, those pests and diseases that you get on a neglected fruit tree will then go and spread around the whole neighborhood. So yes, I'm one of the crabby people who will knock on doors, who will speak my mind, and people just think I'm nuts.
Well, you're doing a good thing. With your fruit trees, are you of the mindset that it needs to be shaped in a certain way, or you let nature take its course, and if it wants to grow a certain way, let it be?
It absolutely needs to be shaped in a certain way. Absolutely. And here is why. Because I want my fruit trees to produce delicious tasting fruit. And what happens with fruit trees, it's a crop more than a tree. It's horticulture more than arboriculture. And so what we want is to ensure that every piece of fruit, every branch has equal access to sunshine, because then the fruit will size up and ripen up properly. If your tree has a mess of branches, you'll have lots of fruit. It will be small because there's only a limited amount of energy that the tree has. So it can make 200 pieces of fruit, and each piece of fruit will be kind of hard and maybe bitter and not really that good and not sun ripened. Or you can prune the tree correctly and you'll have fewer branches. Each branch will have access to sunshine, lots of air circulation, and you'll have 75 pieces of fruit or 100 pieces of fruit, but they will be sweet and delicious and wonderful and healthy. So, to answer your questions, yes, pruning is one of the most wonderful and funnest parts of fruit tree care, but it's also one of the most important. Not only does it keep your crop and delicious and healthy, but it will keep the fruit tree healthy. Correct pruning helps protect fruit trees from pest and disease problems, and I can explain why if you want.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so the reason is that, for instance, fungal diseases, which I'm sure you guys know, are such a problem with fruit trees. Pretty much 80% of all diseases that fruit trees get, and there are a lot of them, are fungal diseases. And fungal diseases absolutely love dark, humid areas. That's where they gather these fungal spores. So what happens is if the canopy of your fruit tree gets overgrown, then when it rains, the rain and the moisture stays in the canopy and it doesn't dry out, the sun doesn't penetrate, the wind doesn't blow in there, and so you get more and more fungal diseases. And the same thing with pests. Pests also like dark conditions. They can go and do their mischief and nobody catches them, nobody gets rid of them. So pruning is one of the things is it protects your fruit tree from fungal diseases and pests. The other thing it does, and I'll tell you guys a funny story, in 2013 we had a terrible ice storm here in Toronto. And this city was a mess. Like all the big trees, all sorts of trees were falling down, branches broken, cars smushed. And then you'd go to our orchard, which was relatively young at the time, and our young trees that had been pruned properly for, I think, 4 years at that point, not one branch was broken, not one branch. And the reason is because when you prune your fruit tree correctly, you are creating a strong fruit-bearing structure for your tree. It's strong enough to hold a heavy harvest, so a bit of ice or even a lot of ice is not a problem. So those are a couple of the reasons why pruning fruit trees is super important.
Fantastic. So a lot of people are going apple picking right now. What are some tips for people to store them to get the most out of their apple harvest?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually, and it's something I had an article written about on my newspaper. It's in my in orchardpeople.com on my website, because I was curious about that as well. I am so enjoying the fruit at this time of year, and yes, I freeze a lot of different types of fruits, but apples, there's something special about a fresh apple. So here's what we discovered. There's a couple of steps to storing fruit correctly, apples in particular correctly. And the first thing is, if you are growing the apples yourself, you want to harvest them a wee bit earlier than you would ordinarily. So what you need to do is a couple of weeks before you think it's time to harvest, start tasting the apples and see what they look like. Slice open the apples and have a look at the seeds. If the seeds are white or light colored, it's not ripe enough to harvest. But if the seeds are black, even if the fruit isn't 100% as ripe tasting as you think it will be, that's when you harvest it, because after you take the fruit off the tree, it will continue to ripen. So that's one step. And the second step is you need to store those apples correctly. So the problem is we have two things going on. After you harvest your apples, they produce ethylene gas. And ethylene gas accelerates the ripening of fruit, and it eventually causes the rotting of fruit. The second problem is when apples are off the tree and they're not being sort of fed by the mother tree with nutrition and moisture and, liquid nutrition, they dehydrate and shrivel up. We don't want those things to happen. So what you do is when you take your apples, when you buy them from the market, you put them into a bag, like a Ziploc bag that can be sealed. But you poke holes in the bag. You can use a hole punch to do it even. I don't know if people have hole punches anymore. In my days, they used to. But you can punch some holes in the bag, and then you can put it in your fridge. And what you want is you can put it in the drawer in the fridge or somewhere in the fridge where the temperature is, let's say, 38 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So you put the apples in the bag, you seal the bag, but it has holes. The holes will allow the ethylene gas to escape. But what the bag does is it keeps the moisture in. That humidity will stop those apples from drying out. So that's the best of both worlds. And in some cases, depending on the cultivar, you can keep those apples for 3 months or more just by doing that.
Get them out of that plastic bag that you pick them at the orchard there.
Yeah, those plastic bags, they won't be sort of Ziplocs that actually seal, right?
Right.
So, yeah, they won't help too much.
Well, before we let you go, I would like you to tell us what our listeners can find when they pick up your #1 bestseller book, Grow Fruit Trees Fast. What can we expect?
Well, here's what they can expect, and I'll tell you guys why I wrote it. I wrote it because a lot of people want to grow fruit trees, and so they kind of shoot from the hip, and they go to the garden center, and they buy a tree, plant it, just like I did, by the way. They plant it, and then they get a bunch of surprises. So I wrote my book, Grow Fruit Trees Fast, and I designed it to be a quick read for busy people, like me, like you guys. We're all so busy. So the idea is that you read this book, it'll take you about 1 hour. And in 1 hour, I will tell you everything you need to do to keep your fruit tree healthy and productive. And if you're willing to do those things, then it's not rocket science. It's not going to be a lifetime pursuit, taking all your time. But what you have to do, you have to do. If after reading this book in 1 hour, you say, hey, I can do this. I will do this. I am willing to take care of those trees properly. I will have a healthy and productive tree. Let's go for it. The book will help you choose the easier to grow cultivars that are disease resistant, that will cross-pollinate, that will work for your unique location. And the book will tell you what you need to do to feed and care for that tree, especially when it's young, and then you are set to go. But if you buy the book and then you think, you know what, I'm not up for it, then it's still a good investment, because then you don't waste your time buying a tree and watching it not do very well. And the problem with buying and planting a tree and giving it a go is you don't know that things aren't going well until 2 or 3 years down the line, when you've invested time and money into the tree. So my goal is to help people get things right from the start. And if I can help people before they even buy their tree, I am super happy. If I can help people when their tree is young to teach them how to prune, I'm really happy too. And I'm happy to help people with older trees as well that just never knew how to care for it. But our success will be best if I can start people off right from the start when they're choosing their tree.
Well, we really appreciate having you on the program and all of this great fruit tree information. How can people, again, find out more about you, your website, and
your book?
And your book, too.
Absolutely. Okay, so they can go to orchardpeople.com. That's my website, where they will find that I have lots of articles on fruit tree care. I have a monthly radio show and podcast where I talk about fruit trees and Every single episode has information about how to grow fruit trees and what you need to know in order to be successful. I also have online courses at orchardpeople.com. So if you're ready to jump in with both feet and you really want to learn how to do it properly, I've got courses that can teach you at orchardpeople.com as well. And my book, Grow Fruit Trees Fast, which I am so excited is the #1 bestseller at the moment on Amazon. People can find at Amazon, either Amazon.com or their local Amazon store. All you have to do is type in Grow Fruit Trees Fast.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for the time you've offered us and the education you provided Holly, myself, and all of our listeners. We thank you for that.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. And when we come back, it's Your Garden Questions, Our Garden Answers. You're tuned into the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Head into Fleet Farm where you'll find everything you need. From tires to tree stands, drills to dog food, toys to tools, they've got it all. You can save even more at Fleet Farm when you join the Fleet Rewards loyalty program. You get exclusive offers and it's free to sign up. Get everything you need at a low fleet price. Shop in store or online today at Fleet Farm. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Tree Hugger sprinklers are the ultimate watering device for either your newly planted or established trees and shrubs. Our sprinklers open and close around the trunk of your tree and provide 360 degrees of watering. With our adjustable valve, you can direct the water to your tree's targeted saturation zone. They come in 3 sizes, 7, 11, and 15 inches. You can purchase a Tree Hugger sprinkler at your local garden center, feed store, or hardware store. Go to treehuggersprinklers.com to find a retailer close to you. Or you can buy it directly from Amazon or treehuggersprinklers.com. If you're an independent nursery, garden center, hardware store, or feed store, you will want to stock this product. Contact the good people at Tree Hugger Sprinklers and they will get you set up. Your tree's best friend. treehuggersprinklers.com.
Make watering easy. DripWorks provides quality drip irrigation supplies and equipment to gardeners just like you for all your growing needs across the U.S. and Canada. Purchase online at dripworks.com.
The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Happy Leaf LED, Root Maker, Jung Seeds, Tree Hugger Sprinklers, Verlo Mattresses, Farmer's Defense, Pomona Universal Pectin, Natural Green Products, Mantis Tillers. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy that you are with us today. Time for garden questions and answers. Send it on over to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or jam your fingers in your mobile device or your phone and give us a call at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. This question is sponsored by Fleet Farm and fleetfarm.com.
I forgot to top my Brussels sprouts last month, and I'm in Southeast Wisconsin, Zone 5B. Is it too late, or can I still top them to get some good production?
Go ahead and top them now. You can actually, they'll withstand cold, frost, not a hard freeze, but in the Zone 5, you can top them and wait for another month to harvest. Early November, you could harvest them. You're not going to get the massive return on a size as you would if you would have done it about 45 or 50 days ago, but you will get some. So go ahead and trim the tops off 6 inches off the top growth, the vertical growth of it, and that will put the plant in a stress mechanism to get it to start developing larger Brussels sprouts, larger sprouts, and then you will have decent size sprouts or better size sprouts than what you do right now. Well, let's go to the hotline, Holly, and we've got a question from Tim who listens to us on WJOL 1340 AM. out of the Joliet area.
Hi, my name is Tim. We live about 50 miles south of Chicago in Wilmington, Illinois. And I was wondering, I need to plant some grass. Should I do it now or should I wait till spring? And the other thing is, I keep getting a bunch of mushrooms in this one area of my yard. Is there any way of getting rid of them? Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the program. And for the grass planting, Holly?
Yeah, so for the grass planting, you want to plant your grass now. You can do it again in the spring, but what you would do is you would you could weed it. You want to seed and feed your lawn in the fall. So you seed and feed your lawn in the fall. If it's necessary, seed it. If it's not necessary, you can feed it. And then come spring, you'll have an idea of maybe if you need to plant more grass, seed or reseed or whatever. For the mushrooms, what you want to do is you want to pluck them out because those mushrooms create more spores.
When you do that, you use gloves because you don't know if your toxic things, your hands are toxic, or these mushrooms are toxic or not.
Yeah, and then you want to throw them away. Then if you want to, you could aerate the soil if that's not something you want to do. There are many ideas where you could do something where you use vinegar on that grass and you just take about 2 tablespoons per gallon of water and spray that area. If it's a low-lying area, then those mushrooms will likely to keep returning because they have that perfect wet, moist condition. So you want to either, if you could, somehow, I don't know, lay some soil down and then seed that to kind of raise it a little bit. If that's not an option, just definitely keep any pets or children away from that area and continue to pluck the mushrooms as soon as they come up because that will help reduce the mushrooms a lot.
The spores.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to WAAM 1600 AM out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ilona has a question for us.
This is Ilona from Highlands, Michigan. And my question is, how do you get rid of moss? We have a gravel driveway, and with all the rain that we've had here in Michigan, the moss is taking over. It looks like a green carpet. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right. We appreciate you listening to the program over there in Michigan. And your driveway is a green carpet now. So there is an application of organic matter in which you can do here, Holly.
Yes, you can mix 2 to 3 tablespoons of baking soda with 1 quart of water or 1 cup of baking soda with 1 gallon of water.
Repeat that again slowly for all of us.
3 tablespoons for 1 quart, 3 tablespoons of baking soda for 1 quart, or 1 cup for 1 gallon. What you do is that you go out there, you mix this up, and you shake
in a pump sprayer. Or you can probably do it in a watering can of some sort.
A sprayer is best.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to help you apply it nice and evenly. So you mix it up, and then you just spray the moss directly. And the nice thing about this is that if you have a gravelly driveway, it's going to settle into those grooves and help get rid of the moss. But you can also kind of break it up too with like a garden rake or like a garden rake.
Just drag it over to disrupt the current layer of rock that you've got sitting there.
I mean, don't like totally rake your whole driveway, but kind of mix it up a little bit. Agitate it and then spray that.
Poke at it.
And then spray that. If you have a flat driveway, that's not going to work. But since you have a gravelly driveway, you can kind of mix it up a little bit. But either way, spraying the baking soda water combination should get rid of it. Because it has an acid in it.
Yeah, it may have to have a couple of applications for such, but especially if it rains, a little while after, you want to make sure there's no chance of rain there. Okay, I've planted a lot of kale and I have been harvesting it slowly. When is the final time for me to harvest it? I've heard it still survives frost and a light freeze. I want to keep using the fresh kale as long as possible.
Well, this is kind of a choose your own adventure. Unless you get a hard freeze, it's going to keep doing its thing.
You can use floating row covers to help protect it on those cold nights.
Yeah, you can use floating row covers. You could just wait it out, see what happens. I know this particular person, and they grow the kale because they really enjoy the kale, and the fresh kale, and obviously saves you money. So, yeah, you can do those things, and then once it once it does hard freeze, it might do well. It just depends.
If you know it's going to hard freeze, for example, tonight, go in there and just cut everything ground level and bring it in the house. And you can blanch it, you can freeze it. But if you're going to use it in smooth or whatever, you got a few days shelf life. But go ahead and mow it down to the ground to get everything out you can, in case when that hard freeze comes. All right. Well, with that being said, we are out of time, and we thank you for yours. Miss any portion of the program today, would like to revisit it, you can certainly do that by going to your favorite search engine and typing in the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show, or you can send us an email, gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and we will send you a link to the program. Tune in next week to the program where we will be discussing things you should and should not be composting, as well as botanical gardens. And our guest is author Jennifer Jewell will be with us. And until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.